Good afternoon, Rotarians, friends, and guests. I'm Hannibal B. Johnson. It's my privilege as president to welcome you to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. As we prepare to mark Memorial Day this weekend through the actual holiday on Monday, let's consider how we might honor those who sacrificed so much for us. Former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm said it best. Ceremonies are important, but our gratitude has to be more than visits to the troops and once-a-year Memorial Day ceremonies. We honor the dead best by treating the living well. Speaking of treating the living well, I want to recognize a special guest who continues to do good and to do well, Taylor Hanson. He and Hanson just completed a hugely successful Hop Jam, which brought over 20,000 people to the Tulsa Arts District last Sunday to enjoy music and craft beer from over 100 breweries. Last Friday, Hanson, as part of its sold-out String Theory tour, collaborated with the Tulsa Symphony. Taylor has been here as a speaker before, and he's a leading advocate for eradicating food deserts and bringing healthy food options to underserved communities. Let's salute Taylor Hanson and his father, Walker Hanson, who is also our special guest today, for promoting economic development in Tulsa and for representing Tulsa so well, both here and abroad. If you haven't already done so, please take a moment now to silence your cell phones. A special thanks, as always, to Tom Wolfe for our pre-meeting musical interlude. Tom? Let's begin our program with an invocation from Sarah Fry, followed by Song and Pledge from DJ Morrow Ingram, and visitor introductions from Ed Monette.
Please pray with me. Dear God, thank you for the fellowship as we gather as Rotarians in service to our community and to one another. As we weather the storms that sometimes come from your skies, we ask you to remind us that it's in your strength that we find shelter from the storms in the skies and the storms in our hearts. Remind us that each of us in the room today are called to be spiritual shelter to our fellow Rotarians, colleagues, families, and friends. And remind us that in any time of uncertainty, we have the choice and the privilege to replace every worry, every fear with the limitless power of prayer. Bless this food that it may nourish our bodies, and bless the hands that made it. We offer you thanks and praise now and always, and all God's people said, amen.
Good afternoon. Since we've had sort of a wild weather week, let's sing America the Beautiful. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee. Good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa, where it's time to celebrate only 102 days till kickoff. As is our custom, I will introduce our guests and their host Rotarian. If you will briefly stand so we can take a peek and then sit back down, we'll hold our applause and greet you all in unison. We have a lot of guests today. Let's start off with Phil Pennell is the guest of our speaker, Matt Pennell. And it's his father, by the way. Now, even though Hannibal did a little spoiler thing, I still get to announce our celebrity guests, Walker and Taylor Hanson, and Chris Amberge, all the guests of John O'Connor. Now we'll hold our applause. Jackson Fine and Sherry Fine are here as a guest of Chuck Wilson. Rotarian Cayenne Camus has Michelle Barnett and Mark Miller. Richard Holmes has two guests, Ashley Cutchall, his daughter, and Judge Tom Thornbrew. Sarah Stokely is here as a guest of, supposed to be Peter, we'll say Bob Linacher. How about that? That's here to be the host Rotarian. Malin Pitt is here with Scott Philstrup. Julie Blue is here with Eddie Barclay. Tom Wolfe has a couple of guests, Pamela Fairchild Lindley and Skip Steele. David Downing has two guests, Angela Harless and Terry Bowers. Brian Jackson has with him Robert Bresnahan. Let's give him a round of applause. Two visiting Rotarians today from Sand Springs, Harlan Pinkerton. And from Jinx, Peggy Mitchell. Thank you all for being here. Please come back.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah, DJ, and past President Ed. Our Rotary inspiration this week is Paul Bowman. An anonymous Rotarian writes the following. Paul Bowman embodies the Rotary spirit. He serves with a smile and is always willing to pitch in where needed. He takes on leadership tasks with grace and humility, always looking to build consensus and to execute tasks efficiently and effectively. We need more Paul Bowmans. So Paul, please accept this Rotary Inspiration Pin with our gratitude for your commitment to service above self. Now please help me welcome John Croissant with a new member introduction. John.
Today we're going to be introducing Jim Campos. Jim has a diverse background. He spent 36 years working in the drilling, utility, and energy sectors, as well as most recently in insurance, which is why they've asked me to come up and introduce him. The first 6 years of his career were spent living and working in Bogota, Colombia, where he was an administrative manager for Parker Drilling. When he came back to the United States, he worked 17 years for Covanta Energy and started here as a facility manager with their waste-to-energy facility in West Tulsa. He ended up working on different water projects for them in Mexico, Spain, and Colombia. And he returned back to Tulsa with Waste-to-Energy Division, where he became a regional vice president over Tulsa, Indianapolis, Minneapolis, Grand Rapids facilities. In the last 13 years, he's taken over his own State Farm agency, which is located in East Tulsa, and he serves a growing and diverse population group. And with the help of his very well-trained and professional staff, Jim has been able to really get involved in the community. He's involved in several different community outreach programs, a weekly reading program with Ochoa Elementary, a Christmas gift drive, as well as doing some volunteering with Bevers Elementary. He's a member of several different nonprofits, from the Foundation for Tulsa Public Schools, Tulsa Area Chapter of the Red Cross, Magic Empire Girl Scouts, Hospice of Green Country, and Greater Tulsa Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Jim is a graduate of Leadership Tulsa, as well as Leadership Oklahoma, and he's a member of the Executives of Tulsa. Jim is a native of Carlsbad, New Mexico. His beautiful wife, Gloria, is a native of Cali, Colombia, and they have 3 daughters and 3 grandchildren. All right, he's a member of Asbury United Methodist Church, where I grew up as well, and from what it says here, he really enjoys salsa dancing and traveling. So definitely want to introduce him to some of our mixers and come out and do a little dancing with us. Again, Jim is a graduate of Oral Roberts University, where he has a BS in management and an MBA as well. And a little known fact, it was that while in Colombia, was during the time of Pablo Escobar, and they were doing a little stuff down there. But in order to keep from being kidnapped, okay, because he was an executive for an oil company. They told him to take a different way to work every single day. So with that, I am so pleased to be able to introduce Jim Campos and give him the four-way test as a new member of the Rotary Club of Tulsa.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, John, and welcome to our new member, Jim Campos. At this time, please help me welcome past President Bob Sade for a memorial resolution.
Be it resolved that members of the Rotary Club of Tulsa learned with great sorrow of the death of Mike Samara. Mike served in the Rotary Club of Tulsa for 47 years and was eventually named a special lifetime member. Michael Melvin Samara was born in Oklahoma City on May 17, 1924, the youngest of 10 children. His parents had immigrated to Oklahoma from Lebanon. His entrepreneurial spirit was apparent at an early age when he was both a yo-yo champion and an award-winning magazine salesman. He started working in restaurants for his brother at the age of 12. After serving in the Medical Corps of the Army, Mike returned to Oklahoma City and managed the Jamboree Club. In 1957, he moved to Joplin to open and manage Mickey Mantle's Holiday Inn. And then in 1963, he moved to Tulsa to open his own restaurant. Over the years, he had ownership or interest in many establishments, including Big Mike's Hamburgers, Sleepy Hollow, Hilton Hotel, Utica 21 Club, Burger King, the Library, and the legendary Celebrity Club. In 1978, Mike was diagnosed with colon cancer and given little to no chance of surviving. He sold many of his restaurants to focus on his health. To the surprise of all of his doctors, Mike fought the cancer and went on to live another 40 years. Throughout his illness, he maintained ownership of the Celebrity Club. Because of Oklahoma's liquor laws, it was a private club for many years. Mike was an influential member of the Oklahoma Restaurant Association, serving as chairman in 1982. Since Mike was an ardent observer of the laws and persisted in getting them revised, he was given the privilege of serving the first legal alcoholic drink in the state of Oklahoma. Over the years, the Celebrity Club has been known for having excellent food, such as tableside Caesar salad, which Mike learned to make from the creator of the recipe and brought to Tulsa. He was the consummate host, going table to table, greeting customers, and personally engaging with each one. Something special lost today in today's world. It was in that place that he celebrated countless birthdays, anniversaries, marriage proposals, Valentine's Days, and Christmas parties. He wasn't just in the food business, he was in the people business. Even though his eyesight was failing, he would continue to put on a suit and tie every evening and go into his restaurant to greet his patrons all the way until the age of 91. Mike was also a mentor to many in the restaurant business. It's not unusual to find a current restaurant owner in Tulsa who got their start working for him at Big Mike's or the Celebrity Restaurant, as it is now called. Mike Samara was truly a gift to the Tulsa community and deeply loved by all who knew him. His was most definitely a life well lived. Mike is survived by 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. I move this resolution be adopted by a standing vote of the Rotary Club of Tulsa. May we rise for a moment of silent tribute to the memory of Mike Samara.
Thank you, Past President Bob. The Rotary Club of Tulsa will continue to embrace the Samara family. President Ronald Reagan said, "We are forever indebted to those who have given their lives that we might be free." Please direct your attention to the screens for a special Memorial Day tribute.
Some time back, I received in the name of our country the bodies of 4 Marines who had died while on active duty. I said then that there is a special sadness that accompanies the death of servicemen, for we're never quite good enough to them. Not really, we can't be, because what they gave
Our Rotarian of the day is Jake Dollarhide. Jake is the CEO of Longbow Asset Management Company, serves on the boards of the Tulsa Ballet, Rotaract Foundation, and the YMCA of Greater Tulsa. He's also a member of Life Church Midtown. He joined the Rotary Club of Tulsa in the year 2000. He's a Paul Harris Fellow +2, Club Foundation Fellow, and father of 2 incredible sons. Please help me welcome Jake Dollarhide.
Matt Pinnell was elected as the 17th Lieutenant Governor of the state of Oklahoma on November 6, 2018. Lieutenant Governor Pinnell serves as Secretary of Tourism and Branding on Governor Kevin Stitt's cabinet. Pinnell also runs a small business with his wife Lisa, an entrepreneur and inventor, and I hope he shares something about that. That's pretty cool. And as a small business owner, we're very appreciative of all the efforts you're making for us down in Oklahoma City. Pinnell also currently serves on the Department of Commerce Executive Committee, leading the department's efforts to maximize Oklahoma opportunity zones and focus on small business growth. Pinnell served as a member of Governor Kevin Stitt's transition team with a focus on economic development and tourism as chairman of the Economic Growth Committee. Prior to his election as Lieutenant Governor, Pinnell served as Director of State Parties for the Republican National Committee from 2013 to 2017. Lieutenant Governor Pinnell is a graduate of Metro Christian High School, Oral Roberts University with a degree in advertising, and lives in Tulsa with his wife Lisa and their 4 children ages 3 to 13 who attend Jenks Public Schools. Please give a warm Rotary welcome to Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell.
Well, thank you. Thank you all so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here in Tulsa today. I spend most of my days these days in Oklahoma City. Thankfully, there is not a Lieutenant Governor mansion in Oklahoma City. Thank you, Jesus. So we are not moving to Oklahoma City. We're going to stay Tulsans. Yes. And I have to say this, I actually grew up in this church. My dad, who still is here, who still sings in the choir here, I grew up right here. Some of my favorite memories growing up right here in this church and in this town. From Lee to Wilson, Wilson to Metro, Metro to ORU, I'm a Tulsan. And I'm a darn proud Tulsan. And I am proud to say the first Lieutenant Governor in state history from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Yes. And all of this Tulsa talk, it's not the Tulsa takeover. That's the joke in Oklahoma City these days, is that we are now in this Tulsa takeover mode, which, I talk to Tulsans all the time to say, well, what's wrong with that, right? It is still the Oklahoma turnaround. That is still what Governor Stitt and I call it. I do have to say, there is some breaking news this morning. Those of you all, you need to be following the news today. The Tulsans, anyone, frankly, that lives in northeast Oklahoma, the governor and I did a costume change about an hour ago. We were in a Black Hawk helicopter flying around northeast Oklahoma near Keystone Dam. We were releasing water at about 165 cubic feet a second this morning. We're at about 215 at 2 p.m. So this will be over the 100-year floodplain levels. So there will be some flooding. In the Tulsa, Jenks, Bixby area. We're not exactly sure what kind of levels we're looking at yet. We have a meeting with the Corps at 1 o'clock today. So you need to be diligent, need to be following the news the rest of the day, and praying that those storms that may or may not come later this afternoon into the evening are not as bad as we think they are in the Tulsa area, because we don't need any more rain in Green Country. So I want to make sure that I mention that before I kind of get into my comments here. 2 areas that I want to cover with you here this morning. And it's really, listen, I'm extremely blessed that the 2 areas that I'm going to be talking to you about, I actually have some authority over, a lot of authority over. I've been involved in politics for a very long time. This is the first elected position that I've been elected to. But I've been in a lot of political foxholes over the years and have worked in every state in the country, been in all 50 states the last 4 years, working with different political parties. And so I've seen a lot of politicians. I've worked with every governor in the country, and I've seen many of them make the mistake. They stand in front of podiums like this, and they'll deliver a great speech that gets a lot of a round of applause, talking about all the things they're going to do when they get elected to that particular position that I'm asking votes for. Then they get elected to that office, and they have absolutely no constitutional authority over the things that they told you about. It happens every day in this country, whether you're running for a local race or a federal race. I want to tell you the two things that I'm going to talk to you about, I've got a lot of authority over. And I want you to know that right off the bat, because I get very frustrated with politicians that deliver a very nice speech, but they have no authority over what they just talked to you about. I can tell you the next 15, 20 minutes, and I'm going to open it up for some questions as well. I'm really excited because I have some direct authority over these areas, in large part because Governor Stitt gave me the authority. And I have to really start there. The relationship between the governor and lieutenant governor in Oklahoma is much different than I would say, really any time in state history. A novel concept, I know, for the governor and lieutenant governor to actually get along and like each other and work together, regardless of political party here. I think that is good for all Oklahomans, that you have a governor and lieutenant governor that are working together, singing off the same song sheet. And the governor and I certainly are that way. The morning after we both got elected in November, we had breakfast at Wild Fork, because we're Tulsans, right? And we had to be seen, so we went to Wild Fork. See? If I told that joke in Oklahoma City, they wouldn't know what I'm talking about. So we went there, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, listen, if you're my lieutenant, let's do this thing together." And of course, I stood up and said, amen, you better believe it. I'm your lieutenant, and let's do this thing together. Because we've got, again, regardless of political party, we got to bring people together and move this state in a much different direction. And we have the momentum to do it right now. And the two areas that I talked about on the campaign trail, both on the economic development side and the tourism side, he's given me really full authority over. I'm going to start on the economic development piece. So inside the Department of Commerce, there are 5 executive board members over the Department of Commerce today, and I'm one of them. And my lane inside the Department of Commerce really is workforce development and small business and entrepreneurship. When you look at the Department of Commerce and retaining and recruiting jobs to the state of Oklahoma, you got to start our baseline. So in our cabinet meetings, the governor wanted us to start, what's the baseline? What's our baseline on health, roads and bridges, economic development? Like, where are we at? And let's not, beat around the bush. Let's be very honest about where we at as a state. Drop the politics, drop the talking points, like, where are we at? And in Oklahoma today, you got to start with just warm body numbers, right? That nation down there to the south of us, I forget its name, but there's a state down there. There's 28 million people today in the state of Texas. We have less than 4 million people in the state of Oklahoma. We like to say we have 4 million. We don't have 4 million. We hover in that 3.7, 3.8 million, and we're kind of hold our breath that we don't lose another congressional seat. That is not a recipe for growth as a state. When you have 28 million people down there versus, again, less than 4 million in Oklahoma. That means what? So this is something I remind our elected officials a lot about down at the state capitol when we're following shiny objects that we should not be following. When you have 28 million people in a state, that's a whole lot of people doing what? They're buying a house, and they're paying very high property taxes down there. But they're buying a house down there, and those local property taxes are doing what? They're propping up their local public schools. And that's why in Dallas and Houston, they can pay their teachers what they're paying them. Because that's a whole lot of people in Dallas and Houston buying houses. And so private sector job growth has got to be the leading goal of government policies at our state capitol. And when we're following and we're doing silly things down at the state capitol and we take our eye off that ball, that's when Texas is already running circles around us, but that's when Arkansas and Missouri and Louisiana also start running circles around us, and that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. So I was really glad to see the movement that we saw this legislative session, and I think you're going to see that over the next 4 years under our leadership, that has got to be really the focus of everything we do. And if we're going to do that, if it's about private sector job growth and creating more jobs in this state and existing businesses growing and other people around the country and around the world looking at Oklahoma as a place to relocate their business or retire, then we got to fix 2 things inside the Department of Commerce. The first area is workforce. So any site relocation firm in the country will tell you this. It's all about workforce. And I think one of the worst things we've done in this country is take shop class out of high schools. We've done this decades and decades ago. I've got 4 kids. They're really good at playing video games. But working with their hands, and I know they're young, right? But I talk to companies every single day in this state that would hire people tomorrow. Matt, I'd hire 10 people tomorrow, but they can't do 2 things. They can't pass a drug test or they're not trained to do the job. The skills in the workforce, they're not there to meet the demands of employers. Now, and this is not just an Oklahoma problem. There's a skills gap in this country, unlike any time, really, in our nation's history. Because, again, we really have demonized kids that have gone those vocational routes. It's wrong, and it has to change if we're going to close that skills gap and really address this workforce problem that we have. 60% of the jobs in this state could be filled tomorrow by going down to one of our world-class career tech facilities and getting a certificate. Less than 2 years, making really good money. Really good money. And so that is the good news. The good news here is that, well, I just mentioned it, world-class career tech infrastructure. Again, any site relocation firm will tell me this. It's us in Georgia, have the best career tech infrastructure in the entire country. So tweet that out, Facebook that. We are top 10 on a good list in this country when it comes to our career tech. And this is a really, really big deal. It's a really big deal for retaining or recruiting businesses. Tulsa Tech will tell you this. They've lured a lot of companies to the city. Because of Tulsa Tech, they can put curriculum in place in 6 weeks, turn around very quickly to be training an actual workforce. So if career tech is one of our greatest strengths, why are we not doubling down on that? We have got to do a much better job of telling that story to the country and to the world. That we've got the infrastructure. You bring your employees, we'll train them. That manufacturing facility in Wichita, Kansas that's looking to relocate, let me tell you about the 77 counties that we have in Oklahoma, and you're within 30 to 45 minutes of a great facility. We've got to do a better job of telling that story. And so workforce, really everything we're doing right now inside the Department of Commerce revolves around that workforce piece. And it's taken out the silos. And the silos is the word that I've heard more than any other word since being elected into office. You know, everybody's got their little personal little kingdom inside, you know, that you can't touch. You know, Oklahoma Works is over here, Career Tech over here, K through 12 here, Higher Ed here, and they're in little personal fiefdoms. We've got to break that out, break through that, bring everybody together, and have one workforce plan, like most states do. Michigan and Georgia are 2 very good examples of 2 very good workforce plans that's easy to understand, and parents, moms and dads can understand that from a workforce perspective. The good news again here, 10 years ago, I'm not sure I could have just given you that pitch in this country. But today, we're at a tipping point in this country when it comes to that for that career tech route versus higher ed route. And believe me, we still need higher ed. Tinker Air Force Base could hire every engineer in the entire state, and they need 1,000 more software engineers. So believe me, we still need plenty of kids going to higher ed. But moms and dads today are taking a look at those other routes. They're starting to take a look at a very good career tech route for their kids and opening those doors. And so getting into middle schools and making sure our high schools are connecting with career tech is something we've got to do. If we do that, we will fast track a few states around us, because Arkansas, Louisiana for sure does not have that infrastructure that we have. So it's going to take them years to catch up to us. Years. So please keep that in mind over the next 4 years. You will be seeing and hearing a whole lot of career tech talk and workforce talk and a skills gap talk from Kevin Stitt and myself. The second area inside commerce is this entrepreneurship and small business piece. And one of the big reasons that I ran for office, because as my bio stated, we are small business owners and entrepreneurs, due in large part to my wife. So my wife came to me about 6 years ago and said, "Hey, babe, we've got to go get a shopping cart." And I don't challenge my wife. We went and got a shopping cart, which you can imagine where we got a shopping cart at about midnight one night. I'm not telling that story, but just you can use your imagination. We do not have that shopping cart anymore. We returned that shopping cart. But trivia, if you did not, the shopping cart was actually invented in Oklahoma. If you didn't know that, now you do. So we tinkered around with this idea that she had for a number of years. Anyone that's created anything, started a business, you know the highs and lows of that. So if you go anywhere today with a shopping cart, you see a mom or a dad or anybody pushing a shopping cart, and you see a little hammock that's clipped into that shopping cart for babies that can't sit up yet. And you say, well, gosh, that's a pretty cute little invention. That was my wife that invented that. That is the Binksy Baby shopping cart hammock. The Lisa Pinnell, who invented that. We were packaging these up 5 years ago in our kitchen. I mean, it was total Jesus take the wheel moment for us. I mean, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, other than, thankfully having a very good patent attorney in downtown Tulsa who helped us with that effort. And we also didn't know, we'll ship to all 50 states, 40 countries this year. We have 2 new baby products we're launching by the end of the year. BinksyBaby.com. Go check us out. So we didn't know where to tap into resources when we were starting this. We had no idea in the state of Oklahoma where any incubators were, where an accelerator was to get into. And we were just lucky that the mom blog world is the most powerful force on human earth. And I'm 100% serious on this. I mean, when moms love a product, it's usually very successful. And that's what happened with our baby product. But if it wasn't a product that moms loved, I'm not sure it would have been successful, and we would have needed a whole lot of help. And 99.9% of people in this state that have an idea, young or old, or in a small business, do need to know where those resources are to tap into. And this accelerator and incubator world is something that we have got to fast track in Oklahoma. So in Oklahoma, you have I2E, you have OCAST, you have 36 Degrees North in Tulsa. Again, we're getting there when it comes to that investment capital in entrepreneurs. The Oklahoma City Thunder Launchpad, if you've not heard of this organization, you need to go Google them. It's a great organization, great accelerator in the Oklahoma City area. And it's because of the Thunder. I mean, they went around the country. It's a great story. They went around the country. They went to Dallas and Houston and Denver and Kansas City. They went to all these cities where they went in to play basketball, right? And they said, well, what is going on in this city? I mean, there's young people everywhere. There's businesses here. Like, what's the secret sauce? And those local leaders in those cities, there is no secret sauce. It's a lot of tough work, but it did revolve around they have a very good environment for entrepreneurs and small business owners. The venture capital is there. The incubators are there, and the accelerators are there. The people that need $30,000 of startup cash to start their business and accelerate their business are in those towns. And so they came home, they slapped down a check to a woman named Erica Lucas, who now has started the Oklahoma City Thunder Launchpad. That launchpad will invest in 100 businesses over the next 5 years, which is great. And they're not all businesses in Oklahoma City. It's very diverse businesses that they're investing in across our 77 counties. But that's one. Colorado has 15 accelerators today. About 6 months ago, I was giving this speech. There was 12. Don't even get me started on Dallas and Houston. Because that's where most of our young talent goes if they have an idea. And I've talked to some of these kids that have come back home only because they have boyfriends or girlfriends back home, back in Oklahoma. But that's not a recipe for success, right? But they go into these accelerators, they get startup cash, and if they get startup cash and their business is successful, what happens? They usually stay in Dallas and Houston. And the secondary problem to this is once you go through an incubator and an accelerator, the second bigger problem that we have is even when they're going through accelerator in Oklahoma, most of that talent is still leaving because we do not have the venture capital in the $1 to $5 million range. This is the most philanthropic city, arguably, in the entire country, and one of the most philanthropic states in the entire country. And so what I've been doing since getting sworn into office is going into rooms like this and saying, thank you for your philanthropic investment. Please continue to do that. But let me tell you about this startup firm and this fund here that's investing in businesses in your city. Because if we don't do that, then the brain drain will continue to happen in Tulsa and Oklahoma City and every other city in this state. So the governor has really tasked me to really bird dog this across this state to make sure I'm getting in front of those communities to really turn this light on. Thankfully, again, the momentum, 10 years ago, I'm not sure I could give this speech, but today I can, because every other city is doing this, and we've got to really copy it. So that investor area is something that over this year, really over these next 4 years, we have got to have a number of more investment, really startup funds in this state, both in the Tulsa and Oklahoma City area, that can help both those towns as well as rural Oklahoma. The opportunity zones was also mentioned in my bio, and it's something I do need to mention. If you do not know about these opportunity zones that we have in Oklahoma, you're going to start hearing a whole lot about them. A few months ago, the federal rules were kind of finally finalized. It takes a really long time. Shocking, I know, when the federal government comes up with an actual good idea. This was real strange bedfellows how this happened. Sean Parker with Napster and a U.S. senator, an African-American U.S. senator from South Carolina got together in a bipartisan way and said, we need to create investment opportunities in economically depressed areas around our country. Because over the last 10 years, 75% of investment dollars have gone to 5 states, and really California and New York and Massachusetts, really the top 3, almost 75% of it. So what they created in Donald Trump's tax cut bill a couple years ago were these opportunity zones. With previous administration, so Mary Fallin and our Department of Commerce picked these zones in Oklahoma. We have 117 zones in the state today where you can park, again, cap gains. If you leave it in there long enough in an investment, a lot of these shovel-ready projects, we've got a lot of great ones right here in Tulsa and in Oklahoma City that can be really tax-free over a number of years. Again, 117 zones in Oklahoma. We're starting to put perspectives out there to potential investors. I've got 3 trips to California this summer where I'm getting in front of day traders who have a whole lot of money that they want to invest in the middle of the country because it's prohibitive for them to invest that money in New York and LA anymore. They're looking for places in the middle of the country where they can invest money, and I'm telling them all about Oklahoma. Governor Stitt's doing this as well. We're dividing and conquering and going into a number of states this summer. So you're going to start hearing a whole lot more about this. If you're in the real estate world, I want to talk to you, both on the corporate side and otherwise. So just come to me after and let's talk about it. But these opportunity zones are another area that I'm going to be heavily invested over these next 4 years. That economic development piece, as I like to say, the front door to all of that is tourism. And I'm going to finish my comments there. I was also named Secretary of Tourism and Branding, so we really doubled down on me really running tourism. I looked at what every lieutenant governor did around the country, and I know, crazy that I would do that. I would look at what other lieutenant governors around the country do, and most all of them have a very big tourism portfolio. Again, playing to our strengths, my theme here, playing to our strengths as a state. Tourism is one of our greatest strengths, and it's always frustrated me growing up in this state why we have not invested more when it comes to our tourism assets. Across 77 counties, for sure. No state, if you really think about it, no state can match our heritage and our history. I mean, you think about it. There's not a single state that can match our heritage and match our history. From, yes, the Native American piece, but also I'd say Route 66. Right here, as we all know, right here in Tulsa, America. Route 66, it's the most famous road in the entire world. Most famous road in the entire world. We have more drivable miles of Route 66 than any other state in the entire country. This should not be hard, as I like to say. Baby boomers who are all looking for the authentic American experience, as I call it. There's 75 million of them, and they control most of the money in the entire country. Baby boomers do. That's why they're a really big deal. There's 75 million of them. They spend most of the money in this entire country, and 99% of them are going to do what next year? They're going to travel. You do any poll on baby boomers, 99% of baby boomers that have money and that can travel are going to travel. And if we pitch an authentic American experience to them, both rural and urban experience for them, we'll get them off roads and bridges in Tulsa. And they'll spend a whole lot of sales tax dollars, which if Mayor Bynum was here would be giving a standing ovation for that. Because any mayor in the state of Oklahoma will tell you, we live or die on sales tax. We're one of the most sales tax dependent states in the entire country. Frankly, in my opinion, way too sales tax dependent as a state. But if we're going to continue to be this sales tax dependent, we better go after some of the easiest dollars to go after, and that's tourism dollars. So we are putting a new plan together for Route 66 inside the Department of Tourism that I control. We have a statewide tourism conference at the end of the year, the inaugural. I wish I could tell you that it's not the inaugural. I wish I could tell you that we do a tourism summit every single year with every community across our 400 drivable miles to put a master plan together for Route 66. I'm afraid to tell you we've never done that before I brought up the idea. But we're going to start it in December, and we're going to put a master plan together for Route 66, and we're going to make a whole lot of money on it. Because when I get reporters asking me, well, what's your vision for tourism? My vision for tourism is to be a billion-dollar tourism state. We generate about $650 million in state and local tax revenue off tourism. Most of that is organically driven right now, again, just because of our heritage and our history. Just think if we actually really marketed the state. Because I can tell you today, we don't invest the kind of dollars that we need to invest. Before, again, we took that department over, because I got the numbers. The spring campaign, and I'll just break it down for you. The spring campaign that we started a week before spring break, we spend most of our money currently in Texas going to baby boomers because we make a lot of money off of them. We're going to be much more broad moving forward. But right now, $2.3 million spring campaign. That's the only branding that we do in the state of Oklahoma today, really. The Department of Commerce really isn't yet. We're putting a plan together. But just track with me here, $2.3 million spring campaign. That's all of the TV that we're projecting to the rest of the country of why they need to come to Oklahoma and spend money. $2.3 million. You know how much Michigan spends every year on that Pure Michigan campaign? You know, we've all seen the Pure Michigan campaign with Tim the Toolman Taylor narrating that. $28 million every year. The Nation, again, I don't like mentioning that much, but that Nation down there, $41 million a year. $10 million internationally, and they have very few miles of the most famous road in the entire world. But they still somehow come up with $10 million internationally to promote the state of Texas. So you get what you pay for, folks. There's a lot of agencies that have been cut and sliced and diced when oil prices did what oil prices did. So believe me, we need to make sure that those agencies are fully funded. But the Department of Tourism is one that needs to make sure that we have an adequate budget as well. Because for every dollar, every tax dollar that I'm given to spend on tourism advertising, I get $8 back. I looked across state government. That's the best ROI that you're going to find in state government. For every dollar I spend, I get about $8 back. And I'm making sure our legislators know this. I need to make sure that you tell your legislators this. We've got to have a larger marketing budget to market our state. That rural and that urban experience. The other reason this is so sellable is that the fastest growing cottage industry inside the tourism department as a whole today, not just in Oklahoma, but across the country, is agritourism. So today in this country, people want to know where their food's coming from. That farm-to-table movement, good luck finding a table at any of those restaurants. I mean, if you try to find it, it's very tough today. And if you haven't seen what's going on up in Pawhuska, you need to go check it out, right? We all get that in northeast Oklahoma. But there's something going on in this country today. In Dallas, we're getting a lot of Dallas and Houston traffic because of it as well. They want to turn that phone off for 3 days. They want to go find a cute boutique hotel somewhere on a Main Street USA with the American flags. They want to turn that phone off. And they want to return to what America used to be. Again, authentic American experience. We have that across 77 counties, right? You can get it in Tulsa, you can get it 15 minutes outside of Tulsa. You can be in Oklahoma City, you can be in Luther in 20 minutes. Most states can't offer that. It's too far of a drive. But in Oklahoma, because, again, the way that we are set up, you can get an urban and a rural experience in less than an hour. And we have to do a much better job of selling that. Route 66, agritourism, small town, big town. We're about to launch a marketing campaign in this state that I think will, again, revolutionize our tourism industry. I want to be top 10 in all the areas that Governor Stitt wants to be top 10 in, believe me. But I assure you we can be a top 10 tourism state. Because if we would be playing to our strengths. We don't want to turn ourselves into a different state when it comes to tourism. We got plenty of assets right here to be promoting. The last thing I'll mention when it comes to tourism, which has again been a problem that I need you to know that I recognize, is that we launch a lot of things in this state, but then there's nobody accountable inside these agencies to carry out the plan. Because if you did not know, 6 years ago, we launched a music trail in Oklahoma. Did you know that, Taylor? We got a music trail. Have you ever flown into the Tulsa International Airport and seen a banner that had the Hanson faces, the beautiful Hanson mugs right on it, with Garth Brooks and Carrie Underwood and One Republic? I mean, nothing. That's never happened because we launched a virtual music trail. There's not a single marker in the entire state that's this way, to where Taylor wrote a song where you could snap a selfie with. It doesn't exist. We don't have any infrastructure behind what should be the best music trail in the entire country. It really should. It really should. So that's going to happen. Your mug's going to be at the Tulsa International Airport. Because I actually had to cancel the meeting with the executive director down there this morning because I was flying around with the governor. Yeah, let's do it. Because playing to our strengths, that gets people, that changes also the perception of this state as well. It's Secretary of Tourism and branding. So we are launching a rebrand on the state of Oklahoma. And I guess I should say it's just a branding campaign, because I don't know what the current brand in Oklahoma is. But it better not be Oklahoma is okay, right? Or don't lay that trash on Oklahoma, or what, you know, those were the ads that people sent me when we announced that we were going to have a branding campaign in the state. And it better not be the Twitter bird on the license plate. That's my other joke. I know I know it's not a Twitter bird, but it looks like we got a Twitter bird on a license plate. Now, do those things matter? I would say absolutely. This is the crossroads of America, right? 40% of the cars and trucks on our roads any given day that beat up our roads and bridges every day are not even from here. They're crossing through here, they're buying a bag of chips and a tank of gas, and they're gone. And what are we showing them? I drove over that invisible line into Arkansas over spring break, and you see that Welcome to Arkansas sign, nice and shiny, nice landscaping, 3 minivans pulled over on the side of the road taking a selfie in front of the Welcome to Arkansas sign. You can see the Welcome to Oklahoma sign on the other side of the turnpike. I mean, it's hilarious. You can see it over there, halfway kind of falling down, right, faded. Discover the excellence, which, again, they must have just slapped that up one day. I don't know. There's no campaign around this. Not a single car over there pulled over, right, snapping the selfie. Does that matter? I believe that it does. And the governor believes that it does. And we're not going to change those things if we don't have somebody that's accountable to those projects. So when I wake up every morning, those are the things that I'm thinking about. Music trails, Welcome to Oklahoma signage. I see the license plate every single day. And I want you to know that I'm not going to do, again, what some politicians mistakenly do. They go follow, again, that shiny object somewhere, and don't get back to square one of where they actually have direct authority over. So from an entrepreneurship piece and small business piece, we got to keep our kids here. That brain drain, my kids, I want them to grow up in a state they can be proud of, find a job here, and start their own families here. And from that tourism piece and that branding piece to rebrand this state, you love Oklahoma, I love Oklahoma, then let's put a product out there that we can be proud of, Thank you all so much for your time today. I look forward to working with you over the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Purnell, for a great presentation. A book recognizing today's program will be presented to our partner in education school, which is Celia Clinton Elementary School. And this week's book is Rolling Thunder. Lieutenant Governor has agreed to stick around for a few minutes after the close of our program to answer any individual questions that you might have. Special thanks to this week's meeting sponsors, Jackie Cooper Imports with Greg Keck. Committee meeting following this meeting will be the New Events Committee in room 232. Next week's presenter will be Shannon Rich, who's President and CEO of the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. The following week, on June 5th, we'll hear from Mike Carter. So let's not lose sight of that grand Rotary International vision. Together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Also, please note that our new member, Jim Campos, will be in the guest table area in the foyer as you exit. Please take a moment to personally welcome him to our Rotary family. With that, we are adjourned.